it's a limped pot. I'm in the big blind. I look down at pocket sevens and I check, and it comes 7-3-3. So there's only like €8 in the middle, whatever. Small blind checks. I check. Now almost 100% sure this game is rigged. And all of a sudden it just goes bet, re-raise, all in. I'm in the big blind of sevens. It's 7-3-3 on the board, and I just fold. Just fold pocket sevens, and it goes all in, all in.
Hi, and welcome. It's Runchuks, and you're listening to my podcast where I explore the topics around what it takes to become a great poker player with various interesting people from in and around poker industry. If you're enjoying the podcast, you might be interested to sign up to my weekly newsletter where I deliver my key takeaways and ideas from each latest episode. Go look it up on runchukspodcast.com. Today, I'm talking to Henry Kilbane. He's a funny guy. He does a great job providing commentary for some of the biggest poker events in the world. And I want to say we went a bit off the rails on this one. We covered some crazy stories from live poker that we've experienced. We talked about private games, rigged games, rounders lifestyle, behind the scenes of poker entertainment, and so much more. This conversation goes from funny to dark to educational and many shades in between. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you do too. Awesome. Thanks for joining me today. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks for having me, man. I've been looking forward to it all week, actually. I'm not going to lie. I've been thinking about
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And you know what? And it's actually funny. I want to point it out sort of on record that we talked an hour before we started recording just because there were so many things to cover. And some of those things we should have actually recorded that they are fun, but we might revisit them in our conversation right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you sit down with someone like yourself, it's hard not to just jump into a conversation, man. You've got a lot of interesting things to talk about. So I'm not surprised that we spoke for an hour before going live, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, listen, Henry. So I think there are so many topics we can cover today, right? And I think before we jump into some of the other stuff, let's talk about you a bit, right? For some of the viewers who don't know you, like let's say met, because that's like a virtual COVID kind of meeting environment of meeting on online. We did a few commentary gigs together for Run It Once and the Galfond Challenge, right? And you have some fascinating stories to tell, right? So that's going to be real interesting. But maybe tell in a few words, like for people who don't know you, who is Henry?
Who is Henry? Wow, man, we're going deep straight away.
Yeah.
My name's Henry Kilbane, also known as the GTO Commentator. I've been doing commentary in the poker world now for, what are we, midway through 2020. About 2.5 years. I kind of fell into commentary in the sense that I just went to a small live festival as a poker player, and the media, the lady that was in charge of the social media, they did a small interview for me, and then they invited me back to do some commentary. And yeah, man, I mean, my life just basically changed overnight by going to do commentary for them for this small 1-2 cash game that they were running in London, and I was still living in the UK at the time. And then within like the space of 8 months, I received some like phone calls from Unibet, from WSOP, and I was like, hang on a minute, like I could barely beat the 2-5 in my local casino, and WSOP want me to come and cover this 100K. Like, what's going on, man? So yeah, it's been a roller coaster couple of years. Honestly, it still feel like someone's going to pinch me one day, and I'm going to wake up and I'm still going to be grinding 1-2 in my local casino like I did for so long. But yeah, I play Potlin Omaha for a living. I guess like low stakes life, 5-5, 10-10, and occasionally shot take, the 25-50 game if it's really good. And yeah, that's me, man. Traveling the world, playing poker and doing commentary, and just trying to enjoy life as much as possible.
I find it funny that, and it's often it happens that way, that you basically got sort of accidentally into the commentary gig and you love it.
Lucky.
Right?
Lucky is the
yeah.
word. I've ran so well in the sense that, right place, right time, met the right people who, especially for the Unibet and the Unibet live events and the WSOP Europe events, that wasn't me going to them and like pitching myself as a commentator. That was people that had already established themselves as respected poker pros in the industry, vouching for me without me even knowing. So with the Unibet ambassadors, shout out to David Lappin and Dario Kani. I'd only met them once at a small event in Bratislava. And, we had a couple of drinks, had a really nice conversation. They were, people that I wanted to, get to that level of in terms of like poker and what they were doing in the industry. And then the people that were involved in running WSOP Europe were like, oh, hey, can you guys recommend any commentators? And Dario was like, oh, yeah, there's this young kid from the UK, Henry Kilbane. He's covered a couple of events for us at Unibet. Call him in. And I just got the phone call to come and cover the World Series. And again, it just comes down to luck and people, vouching for me when they didn't have to.
Mm. Yeah, it is indeed. Yeah.
Lucky.
Well, lucky, you kind of make your own luck, that's the thing. And like, let's face it, everybody is in the poker industry at some point. If they got successful in any shape or form, there's luck involved, right? And it's just more acute in our world than in many other professions. But even though, like, I think we're going to talk quite a bit about the commentary gigs, because I think it's fascinating for me, to get a sneak peek about behind the scenes and how you guys doing this, because you, of course, commentated some pretty big events like WSOP. You did WSOP, right? Or am I mixing something up? You did.
Covered the entire WSOP Europe,
right?
WPT, Party Poker Lives. I don't want to miss anyone.
Right.
Obviously, Runner One, Scalp Challenge. But yeah, covered some very prestigious events that 2 years ago, if you had told me that I would be the person in the booth calling the action when I've grown up over the last I'm 25 now. The last 12 years listening to commentary and watching poker, that I would be the one that people are going to be listening to. I just like, no, don't, you're bullshitting me kind of thing, it's just not going to happen.
And we're definitely going to dig into that, right? And sneak peek behind the curtain and all that stuff. But before we go anywhere there, I want you to tell the story about your game in New York, because I remember we were doing the commentary on Galfond Challenge and you told the story and I was like, what the hell was going on through your mind? And I think it sort of adds a little something to the man behind the microphone when you realize, like, okay, this guy did some things, saw some things in the poker world, and we're lucky to have you here, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like, how didn't you get shot? Basically,
yeah.
So that was actually pretty much the start of my professional poker career. I had been playing, 1-2, trying to build a role and failing miserably on several occasions due to, poor bankroll management. But I believe that was, I'd have to double check Facebook, I believe that was 2016, summer of 2016. So I was 21 at the time, just turned 21. And went on a road trip with a close friend of mine around the East Coast of America. And had about 10K to my name. Did I have 10K? Yeah, I had about 10K to my name. And this is where 10K at the time was a point that I had never got to before. I got to like 2K, 3K and gone broke again. But 10K was the first real bankroll, if you will. And I actually went to New York with no intention to play poker. It was a road trip. I'd never been to New York, Boston, some of the other cities that we visited. And the Airbnb host that we were staying with in, what's the area called? God, I should know this. Anyway, the area that we were staying in, we stayed with an Airbnb host, and obviously, he was asking us like who we are, what we do. Really nice guy. And my friend was she's like a singer and a music teacher and a dancer. And I was like, oh, well, I'm a professional poker player. And he was like, oh, really? It's like, I know some like famous game that my friend runs. It's a small game. It's like a deep stacked 1-3 game, but it plays like a 5-10. Everyone buys in for like 2K. A couple of famous people have been to it. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, shoot a message. We're here for a week. If I can get in, then great. If nothing comes of it, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. So a couple of days go by, and he's like, yo, I got you a seat to this game. It starts at 7 p.m. tonight. And he's like, I've given your contact. Do you mind like me giving you your contact details to the host? I was like, yeah, sure. So, a few hours pass and I get a text message from, some random number. It's like, come and let's meet at, 6:30 on 41st. Well, I can't even remember the name of the streets in New York, but it's me on the corner. So I'm there with, my entire life roll in my back pocket and walking around the streets of, downtown New York, just standing on the corner, like looking around, like seeing if do I notice anyone? Is anyone like approaching me? And I get like my phone starts ringing, and so I'm like looking around even more, like to see if I can see someone on the phone trying to contact me. And yeah, like looking back, man, I'll tell you about the actual game in a minute, but looking back, I mean, come on, dudes. It's just one of the dumbest things I've ever done. I'm in a city that I don't know anyone. I've got my life roll in my back pocket. I'm getting contacted by this unknown number, I'll meet you on the corner of this street. And turns out, like my Airbnb host had said, that the game was, a very well-run game. A couple of famous people would, come through from time to time. But it was in that game that I met a couple of players that were telling me about other games. And this is where it just goes from, this level of stupidity. And I'm like, you can't break that. And I'm like, you know what, let's just go up to this level of stupidity. And, they're like, oh, if you're here for a while, we only run this game once a week, but there are still, there's a few games run by some local gangs. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I ran really well in that game. I increased my bankroll by like 25%. So now I've got like 12.5. I'm like, yeah, these games in New York, no one can play online. These games are really good. Let's go and check out this other game that these boys have been telling me about. And I just remember it. It was like a scene out of Rounders, without exaggerating. It's Chinatown, the hustle and bustle of New York. It's like 11 p.m. at night. I've got 12K in my pocket, and I'm walking to this location that I've been told the game runs. And you get given a code by the agents of the game. So I'm assuming, like they get a cut out of the rake or whatever by like sending people. So he's like, yeah, go to this address. There's a door with loads of graffiti on it. There's a gate with loads of graffiti on it. Walk through and take the elevator up to the 3rd floor. It only goes up to the 3rd floor. You have to get out and take the stairs up 2 flights to get to where this fucking game is run. So I'm like, yeah, man, okay, cool. So I go through the gate with loads of graffiti. All the red flags are there to like, Henry, listen, like you're going to die in there, man. And so go up the flight of steps, and there's like 2 security cameras outside this big metal gate. This metal gate is basically advertising, stay the fuck out of this place. Like for normal civilians. So that's what that gate signaled to me. So I give it a tap on the door, and, like, you can hear that there's another security door behind it, mate. Two big, beefy New York guys just like come through shoulder to shoulder. I'm 6'4". I'm a big guy, I'm tall. These guys were like overshadowing me, and they're like, "Who sent you?" And I'm like, "Oh," I just like get my phone out. I'm like, "Oh, his name's Mick." It's like, "Mick sent you?" He's like, "Yeah, for the 1-2 game." Okay, come through. So then I go through, and they're still like standing behind me. There's like this shady office desk with like some chips on it. There's smoke because everyone's like smoking inside. And he's like, "Oh, who sent you?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Mick. Mick sent me." He's like, "What's the code?" And I like gave him like the code number that he'd given me to like authorize me to basically prove that I wasn't a Fed. Obviously, underground games in New York are illegal. And then it was fine. It was absolutely fine. He's like, "Oh, cool. How much do you want to buy in for, man?" I was like, "Oh, 300. They give him like 300. He gives me some chips, and then they take you through the other metal door that was in the office. Go through like these velvety curtains. It reminded me out of like a 1930s jazz club or something. And you walk through, and everyone's like smoking cigars. There's like 3 tables. There's waitresses. There's just like a bunch of money, and it was actually really cool. But the experience of like getting there in the first place and still going through with it, yeah, maybe not the brightest thing I've ever done in my life, that's for sure. But what a bit of money. Went to cashed out fine, got a taxi back to the Airbnb, and I'm here to live the tale, but to tell the tale. But it definitely could have gone differently. I mean, let's be honest, we've heard some shady shit in the past in games like that.
Absolutely. But like, you're going through all of this, right? You just anonymous numbers, you have, Mick sent you have just a number or whatever that proves something, right?
Yeah.
Probably tells them, is it worth killing you or not? But at any point, did you feel like, okay, I should just turn back?
Yeah.
Why didn't you turn back?
Because I was at the door. So the 2 security cameras, and this door looks something like out of a horror movie. The door was specifically designed to deter people from, not poker players. Obviously, people that knew the game weren't going to be deterred by it because they knew that the game was there. But this door was just for random people in the building, I think, to just leave us alone, kind of thing. I remember standing there and just like hesitating before knocking on the door. You've got 2 cameras either side, and I'm like, shit, man, is this a meth lab or is this a poker game? Like this, the level of security that you had to go through to just get to this room. And then obviously with the code, I'm assuming that the code that was sent is there for a reason, and it's that police were obviously going to hear rumors about games running.
Yeah, of course.
And they're going to try and work their way in. And the code is designed to be given for a certain day to a certain person, and then cross-reference with the people actually in the office. So as soon as I gave them the code, the security guards went back to doing their own thing, drinking beer or whatever it was, and the guys like, "Oh, hey man, how much do you want to buy in for?" But I think the reason I didn't turn back is, firstly, I was on a bit of a roll on that trip. It was my first real trip as a professional poker player. And I had already, like I said to you, I'd already increased my bankroll by like 20-25% in the first game that I played in. And I wanted to take on the world. It was my first real taste of what I thought was being a pro. Obviously now, I'd like to think that I'm more mature. I've grown a little bit. I know that the game is very different to what my naive 21-year-old self thought it was at the time. But yeah, it's just, I got into poker because of rounders. And it just felt like that. I was just like, yeah, this is the script to rounders at the moment, and I'm living in the movie. I'm the young Matt Damon rocking up to these underground New York games. Let's go. We're dreaming of Vegas and the effing Mirage.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well, like you said, it's good that you lived to tell the tale, because indeed there's a lot of stories that I could go into where some people that I know basically, you know, suffered from some of bad decisions like this and
Yeah,
risking getting into the games, etc., etc. Obviously, I mean, the way it happened for you is sort of fine. Okay, the Airbnb, and then a referral from supposedly a pro. So yeah, I mean, still very shady, very risky, etc., etc. But also, like, not surprising in terms of behavior of not turning back, right? Obviously, like you said, for you it's a movie script. um sort of, and it's just you're on the roll, etc., etc. And we see it happening to poker players over and over and over again, online and live.
mm,
Online, the same thing translates of people just jumping up the stakes and jumping up
yeah,
the stakes. I'm on the roll, this is awesome, let's just go for it, let's just go for it. And very often I bring up the quote from Barry Greenstein when he said that, show me a poker player who hasn't gone broke yet, and I'll show you somebody who has a lot to learn. Right.
yeah,
So that's one of the things, when you go on these, like, okay, I'm on the roll, let's move up the stakes, let's do something stupid, it's gonna be fine.
mm,
Once you get burned a couple times, you sort of mature forcefully because well, you have to. But yeah, such an interesting story. I mean, you've traveled to so many places and you've been around clubs and games and etc., etc. And this is one thing that is gonna stay forever with you. It's a fucking cool story to tell your grandchildren, sort of thing.
I, I honestly think at the time as well, and you talk about that Barry Greenstein quote, and we were just speaking before we went live, and I'll tell the story as well a bit later on. But my first ever role that I built, I was stung. I was burnt in a pretty brutal way where I lost my entire role in a game that was rigged when I was like 16, 17 years old at the time. Um, but I think the reason I didn't learn from that lesson in the first place was because I was so adamant that I had something to prove, not only to myself, but, to friends and family, because understandably, I'm telling my parents when I'm like 18, 19, or whatever age it was that I want to be a professional poker player. I would tell my kids to grow up and like go and get a job, and my parents did, rightfully so. So I think a lot of that New York trip was me signaling to my family and to people that I don't want to necessarily say didn't believe in me or didn't believe that I had what it takes to become a professional poker player, but they were just more concerned about me failing and having nothing to fall back on. So there was a lot of ego in that trip. There was a lot of, me sharing on social media, like showing my parents, look at me, I'm in New York, I'm in Boston, I'm in Atlantic City, I'm staying in these nice places, like, haha, like you were telling me not to play poker and go and get a job. Now look at me. And yeah, just young and dumb and full of ego, just trying to prove a point. And also earlier on in my career, not professional career, but when I was trying to make it, when I was trying to build a role, yeah, I'm not too proud of who I was as a person during that time. It was very fake. It was a lot of fake it till you make it. I was pretending that I was this successful poker player to friends and family, when in reality I was stacking shelves in a supermarket in night shifts, like on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, behind the bar because I dusted my role for the 5th time, in 6 months or whatever. So that to me was me knocking on the door. Me knocking on the door was like, right, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to make some more money. Then I'm going to have another story to tell my parents. When they ask me, oh, how much money do you make so far this week? I'm like, oh, I've made 4K this week, knowing that is what my parents earn in a month. Luckily, I'm pretty happy with how I've matured since then. But looking back, I think a lot of it just came down to just ego and trying to be accepted by everyone that I knew as this guy that is living the good life, you know, the guy that followed his dreams and kept pushing and pushing when everyone was telling him to, you know, like give up. I think that was that's what made me knock on the door.
Wow, it's really interesting that you know, the way you see it, and I really believe that that's the case, you know, and that's so
100%.
true for so many people, and it manifests itself in very many different ways. You know, I see people, you know, especially that part of the ego and the fake it till you make it thing happens so often, and it happens in different stages of different people's career, right? I've seen people who were successful mid-stakes grinders and were no longer successful mid-stakes grinders, yet to themselves and to everybody else, they were still selling the story of, I'm still successful mid-stakes grinder, and just things are going really good, when the reality is completely not true. And the worst thing, and when people are fooling themselves, that is the worst. Because I mean, sure, fool the other people, that's stupid. You shouldn't do it. Like you should live your own life, not like pretend to live a different life just for the benefit of others. But when you're fooling yourself, that is so dangerous, you know, because that's what gets a lot of people burned, you know, because that's how people lose their role. On paper, everybody knows, okay, bankroll management, hugely important, etc., etc. But then when somebody has it in their head, let's say I'm a PLO 200 player, and that's it, and that's a label you put on yourself, that's your ego attached to it. So as a PLO 200 player, you're not moving down the stakes because, hey, I'm a PLO 200 player. I'm not playing this crappy 100 game. I'm not playing this 50 PLO game, right? And that's so dangerous because, listen, you're supposed to be a professional. You're supposed to be objective, you know. On a micro scale, even, you should always ask yourself a question. You know, if this seat that I'm sitting in right now, if this was open, would I take it?
Yeah.
Right? How many people are actually asking themselves that question? And then wondering, why did I play for way too many hours? Why did I not quit? Why did I do this, etc., etc.? Because basically fooling yourself, and you know, just ego steps in the way, and ego dictates what you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's you've hit the nail on the head in the sense that I was definitely lying to myself for a long time, a very long time. When I look back, I'm only really proud of what I've achieved in the last 3 years or so. And I'm not just talking from a commentary point of view or even poker, just in terms of personal growth as who I am as a person. Because as much as I don't like to admit, I used to just like be a compulsive liar when it came to poker because I just really wanted to be accepted. And I didn't want to go down the route that, you know, most of my friends had gone and, you know, family members had gone, because I had seen, you know, later on in life that they had a lot of regrets. And I wanted to just give off this illusion that, you know, I was just crushing the game and I was living my best life, and I wasn't. And, you know, fortunately, I've got some very good friends, and you know, my parents are my biggest fans now, man. I love how it's transitioned from them telling me not to play poker to now, you know, whenever I'm traveling, you know, my parents on the phone, like, how are you getting on? You know, what are you playing? How's it going? You know, send us pictures. You know, got the family group chat. I love it. My parents, you know, my biggest fans. But you hit the nail on the head that it was definitely a case of not being honest with myself. And I actually recently had, I don't want to say similar, but I play live poker, right? You know, and I've had a very good last 6 months of last year towards the end of 2019. And I had a very good start to the beginning of this year as well. I think in terms of like bankroll, in the space of 8 months, I went from like a 15K roll to like a 6-figure roll, where I had just been splurging through traveling, and just like living the go with the flow lifestyle, to then really starting to take poker seriously. It's like, okay, right, listen, you're growing, you're getting these commentary gigs, you really need to like knuckle down. And it worked. I ran really well. And then COVID happened. I know there are more important things than my bankroll management, but COVID happened, and it's something that affected live poker. So it's like, okay, well, we'll just go back to Europe. I was in America at the time, and we'll play online. And I was like, well, if I'm playing, 10-10, deep stack 10-10 live, and, the occasional 25-25, 50 game, in order to make the same amount of money that I have been, I'm just jumping in the 500 Zoom pool. And even though I know some of the guys that are playing and crushing the 500 Zoom pool and the 1K PLO games on Stars and Party are beasts, I was convinced that I'm going to be able to battle with these guys. And the reality was that it was a pretty quick and harsh lesson. After dropping like 15K within a week of returning to the UK, it was like, okay, Henry, like, you have two choices here. You can continue to believe that because you can beat a 10-10 game live, which, my mum could probably beat a 10-10 game live if I gave her a bit of coaching for a while, and you think you can come into a very well-established 500 Zoom player pool, or 500 or 1K PLO on Party, then, you haven't really learned anything from your previous mistakes. So I dropped. I remember, I think I spoke about it with you, I just went right back to the drawing board. It was like, okay, we've lost the 15K. Let's forget about that. That's gone. We're not going to be able to get that back until we start playing live poker again. So we can either dwell on it and let it eat us from inside, or we can do what we need to do, which is start looking at solvers, start working with solvers, start going through the content on Run It Once, some of Galfond's videos, start talking with people that I already have in my network, in terms of like software that I can use to basically plug a ton of leaks that I have in my game because of the live aspect, and coming from a live background. And I was very happy with myself in the sense that I put my ego aside and dropped all the way down to 50 PLO again, even at one point, because I just wanted to rebuild my fundamentals and do it properly. So similar to fooling yourself, I could have certainly continued to pretend that I was just running pad, when the reality was that these guys were just shitting on me. Like I was the live reg that they dream about, coming into the game just like playing way too many hands, getting just too sticky in certain spots, and lost a decent chunk of change. But yeah, I'm glad to see that personal growth, in the sense that 4 years ago I'd probably be sat here telling you that I just lost my entire role, because I would have continued grinding 500 PLO, and I would have continued grinding, like jumping into 1K PLO streets as well, where I'm just not winning.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you grew enough to make that stop, whereas a lot of people would have gone all the way down, because it's the same metaphor of knocking on the door for poker players, for majority of us. Making a decision of turning back and sort of, for example, just the decision of quitting poker, right? For some people, that would be a pretty smart decision to make, but it's a hard one, right? It's much easier to keep knocking on the door. You keep getting these doors with increasingly worse and worse graffitis on them, and you're like, nah, it's gonna be fine. Let's keep knocking, instead of just taking a step back. Like, so many people don't even take like a month off. Any other career, you would feel like, okay, I'm burning out. I'm just, things are not going well. I hate my job. You, as a poker player, are in such a privilege to just step away, like go away for a month, And when I talk to some people who achieved great success, visible and otherwise, in poker, most of them at some point took like an extended period of time off. If we think about Fedor Holtz, right? I mean, this guy just went around the world, then took another long break, then took some small ones. He's taking breaks all the time. Whereas somehow, the guys at the mid stakes, low stakes environment, they feel so much pressure for like, oh, I can't afford to take days off. I can't afford to take a holiday. That is a problem in itself. If you can't afford a holiday, what the hell are you doing with your life?
I don't understand it, man. Like these guys have decent 50K, when you're in your early 20s is a shit ton of money. And, these guys that are grinding mid stakes, whether it's like 5-5, 10-10 live, or 25-25 live, which, you should really have like a 6-figure roll if you're grinding 25-25 live, or, 200 PLO or 500 PLO online, would require, at least 50K, in my opinion. And they just panic. And I've been guilty of that in the past as well. I've found it very difficult. And it's something that I had to work on. And I can now, say that I can comfortably take breaks from poker. But I used to panic. And I understand them, when you do have a role and it's kind of like a high score that you want to like keep building and building and building. And then you try and detach yourself from playing poker for your mental health to like take a month off, go on holiday, vacation with the family or friends, whatever. And then you see that your role is decreasing because you're spending money and it's not growing because you're not playing poker. That little seed just, I don't know what it is. For me, it was a real struggle to just be like, Henry, chill out. Like, okay, yeah, you spend 1,500 or, 2K to travel and see some friends. But in terms of life EV, your life EV just went up a considerable amount because you've now been to this mountain, or you've now been to this museum, or you've been to this city. Like, don't worry about poker. Poker's going to be there. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is to understand that, your role isn't worth trading your life EV for, in the sense that turning down opportunities to travel and, gain new experiences just so that you can play online or get a certain amount of hands in to potentially make, 5 big blinds per 100 or whatever your win rate is. It's just, it's not a good trade-off. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Mm. And one thing that you mentioned is a key thing here, that chasing the high score type of mentality. It is not a high score. It is not a game. It's not a video game, where a lot of people actually treat it as a video game, and it is just a high score for them. And then, sure, you're chasing the numbers, and like logically, the difference between 100,000 and 96,000 is not that big of a deal. But, that round number, the beautiful, that's the 6 figures,
The 6 figures,
it's a stupid sort of, let's go for it, because like whenever somebody's doing a bankroll challenge, for example, they're never going to do like, oh, I'm going to do, $100, I'm going to turn them into 3.25K. That's not going to happen. That's always going to be, okay, 100 to 3K. We like round numbers, and sure, it's fine, but if you get attached to these numbers and you start chasing the high scores, well, there's all sorts of problems coming in. And I talked about, the dangers of setting monetary goals as a poker player a lot, because I think this is one of the things that hurts a lot of people. It hurts a lot of poker players, just
one of the worst things you can do.
Exactly. It stifles your development. It's like introduces wrong incentives. It introduces a lot of anxiety because you can't control your results. I mean, let's face it, as much as you wanna, you can't, and if if you set a monetary goal and then you're not reaching it, then there's all sorts of things of, oh my God, the life is not fair. Why am I running so bad? Like, this is not fair. This is just happening to me. Look at these other idiots. They're getting so lucky. They don't deserve it. I don't deserve, being in this situation, etc., etc. And it's just perpetual sort of downward spiral that brings a lot of people a lot of pain. And it all starts by setting that stupid monetary goal as your goal, right?
It's the worst thing in poker, in my opinion, that you can do as a professional. So firstly, if you look at the psychological aspect of setting monetary goals in poker, and let's say, I don't know, for argument's sake, that you play 5-5 for a living and you've got a 25k roll and your goal is to get to 50k by the end of the year. And then you get to 50k. Let's say you make it, cool, you achieve your goal. Like, the dopamine levels they'll be there for a little bit, but you'll wake up the next morning. And I guarantee you wake up the next morning, because I've done this before, and I know a lot of people that used to set monetary goals as well. And you will wake up feeling empty. You'll hit the 50k and you'll just be like, what next? And the comparison to achieving the goal, the monetary goal that you've set, to not achieving it, mate, like, just don't do it. I used to do it, and the trade-off just isn't worth it, because not hitting the goal feels 10 times worse than it does to compare to hitting the goal in the good to bad ratio, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it is just a case of what next, like, as soon as you hit it. So fortunately, I've had many mentors in my relatively short poker career and life as well, like life mentors, not just poker, who have taught me to use systems instead of goals. And this is something that I preach quite heavily to my friends as well. Friends that don't even play poker, they just finished uni and they've got these goals of, joining law firms and this, that, and the other, and they want to achieve certain things. I'm like, listen, if you set goals, you're setting yourself up for failure. As harsh as it sounds, you're setting yourself up for failure. Design a system that is going to help you get to where you want to get. So for me personally in poker, I've designed a system where, getting a good night's sleep, eating healthily, working out, being honest with myself when it comes to study, networking, sharing hands, that system itself could easily make me 200k in a year, 300k in a year. But if I set a goal to hit 300k and I utilize all of the things that I just listed and I don't achieve it, I'm going to feel shitty for not achieving. I'm going to feel like a failure. So I'd rather just have a system in place that is designed to achieve what it is that I want to achieve. I know that it's a working system, and just go with it. Just go with the system. It works. It's been proven to work. Be happy that you've learned the lessons and you've got the system in place, and the results will eventually come, rather than saying, oh, this is what I have. I've got the network, I've got the skill set. I've got the ambition to study. Therefore, I deserve to make 200k this year. So I'm going to set myself a goal to make 200k.
Yeah.
You're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. And like you illustrated, basically, these process-oriented goals are really useful, right? Because, you have a system in place, you have a process in mind, you have the specific milestones that you're trying to reach, but all of the things that you can control. You can't control how much money you're going to make in poker, as much as we would like to think. I mean, you can't control it. It's going to be what it's going to be. You can control your win rate, but the win rate happens to be over time. It's not, just because you have a win rate of 10 big blinds per 100 doesn't mean that every 100 hands you're actually raking in 10 big blinds, right? It would be awesome, but it's not the way it works. And another thing that you illustrated is, I think, important to reiterate here, that, the reaching your monetary goal is a one-time event. Once you reach it, it's like a one moment in your life. You reached it, and then a sort of, and then what thing happens. But working towards the goal is a continuous process. And if it's increasingly, doesn't go the way you want it to go, It just keeps adding the pressure, keeps adding the negativity, keeps adding all the bad emotions. And so, yeah, there's really no upside in setting monetary goals, especially like specifically in poker, because you can't control how much money you're going to make. So why are you setting these goals? It's on par of setting the goals of, I want there to be, only 50 rainy days this year. Well, good luck with that. Just like, sure, that's a nice goal.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, the pressure thing is something that I missed out on, and I think that is what it boils down to. Is you're just putting unnecessary pressure on yourself to hit certain targets because for whatever reason you've said that, right, that's the amount of money that I need. I need to hit in poker, or even outside of poker. I need to be manager by the end of the year within the firm that I'm working at. I'm currently a consultant. I want to be manager by the end of the year. Well, you're going to be disappointed a lot of the time. Like, you may be a really good consultant in whatever industry it is that you work in, but how about you just design a system that is ultimately going to, help your career and help you grow as, within that industry. And when you get the promotion to manager, it will come eventually, but like, don't put a label on it. Don't put a date. Don't put, whatever it is on it, because it's just going to build up pressure. Because when the end of the year comes, it's November and you still haven't heard rumors in the office that you're getting promoted, you're just going to feel deflated. It's going to affect your work rate. It's going to affect how efficient you are, whatever it is that you do. And that could ultimately stop you from getting what it was you were trying to achieve in the first place in terms of that goal that you set. That could potentially be your downfall, would be your own goal. And with it not being in sight, could then make you, in poker terms, can make you become more aggressive for your bankroll management because you still haven't achieved that goal. So you then start shot taking games that you shouldn't be playing in because you're just not winning in those games. And, you're back to square one again.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we should jump back to that story that you briefly mentioned. And you said you're going to get back to that. The first time you got burned when you were 16, because we talked off camera a bit about it. And so there's some card mechanics involved. And
yes,
I'm looking forward to find out more, because I've been burned early on in my career playing live games as well with the card mechanics, and I want to hear your experience there.
Well, firstly, very impressive how they do it. Like, I mean, we've all seen rounders. I knew that it was possible, but I didn't know how unnoticeable it was. So just to give like the people that don't know me a bit of a background, when I was 13, I moved to Bulgaria. My parents are property developers, and there was a recession back in 2007, 2008. So they had to like relocate to a new place where they could invest money. And I came home from school one day and they're like, "Oh, you're not going to school tomorrow, Henry?" I'm like, "Oh, why is that?" I'm like, "Well, we're moving to Bulgaria." I was like, "Where the fuck is Bulgaria?" Like, I honestly, just young and dumb, didn't even know where Bulgaria was. So I moved to Bulgaria and learned the language within 4 months. The conversational side of speaking Bulgarian, I had that down. I had the certificate, the C1 certificate, but I was struggling in school with biology, chemistry, maths, because I was having to learn all of these new terminologies in Bulgarian, and I didn't even understand them in English. So it got to a point where I was like close to 16 years of age, where I realized that I was probably going to fail high school because I just wasn't getting the grades to keep me afloat. And I'd already discovered poker through the movie Rounders and playing Zynga online, that I started skipping classes to just go to the internet cafe and play Counter-Strike and play Zynga poker. And I met these guys. The guys that are a few years older than me, like year 12. And they were like, "Oh, Henry, like, get off the computer, come and play with us," playing some 1 cent, 2 cent version of stud at the time. And I remember I knew what a royal flush was. I was like, okay, right. I remember a point in my life where my main priority was to make a royal flush. I was like, okay, I know that a royal flush is the best hand, so we're just going to fold everything else because, we need to make a royal. So that's how shit I was at the game at first. But the interest and the spark and the passion for poker grew from there quite rapidly. And I spoke to a couple of classmates who had also been like playing on like Zinger Poker, and we eventually organized I think it was like a 2 cent, 5 cent cash game where we'd all buy in for like €5. And pretty quickly, it was evident that me and a very close friend, who's still a very close friend of mine now, he's actually a solid MTT reg from Bulgaria, Stoyan Katanov. It was evident that we were winning in this game versus the rest of our friends at a very decent win rate. And it got to the point where I built up a pretty insane roll, considering we were playing like 2 cent, 5 cent, and occasionally, 5 cent, 20 cent, that I was like, okay, I need a bigger game. I need a bigger game. And again, this comes down to ego, being young and dumb, and naivety, is a sense that I'm a British guy in Eastern Europe, in a relatively small town, in a very impoverished town as well, where the average salary per month is like €200 a month, and not realizing that, people are going to be shady in those types of places, because 5K is like 2 years' salary. And I was speaking to like one of the friends that we were playing like 2 cent, 5 cent with. He's like, "Oh, well, I do know this game, this 1-2 game." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "But you shouldn't go there. Like, you don't want to be involved in that game." I was like, "What do you mean? Why don't you want me to be in that game?" Like, then this is where the ego comes in. It was like, "Oh, so you think that I can't win in this 1-2 game? That's what you're saying." It's like, no, it's like, just, you don't want to go to this game. We're all friends here. We hang out with each other outside of poker as well. We go and play pool, we go and play tennis, we drink. Like, just stick to this game, Henry. You don't need to go to this 1-2 game. And I was just like, fuck this guy. Like, I thought you were my friend, and you're basically insinuating that these guys in this 1-2 game are better than me. I'm going to show you, basically. So find out about the game, get a bit more information, and they're organizing a game. And first game I go to, it was like a full ring Hold'em game, and nothing happened to me personally. Like, everything seemed fine. I think I might have even made like a couple of $100, but nothing to raise any red flags. So then I'm like eager to get another big game. I've got about 5K to my name, and I want to prove to my parents that dropping out of school, was the right thing to do. So I text the guy that runs it, and he's like, "Oh, okay, well, the guys that came last time, they were from out of town. They were from like Sofia and Varna, and they had to travel a long way. So they're not going to be interested in coming back for a game. But if you want, we can play like 3-handed. I was like, "Okay, cool. Against who?" He's like, "Well, me, the person that runs the game, and the restaurant owner, the place that we played in the restaurant." I was like, "Okay, cool, yeah." So I go, we play 1-2, sit down with 500. We all both sit down with 500. And this is where I should have known straight away that the game is rigged. But long story short, about 6 hands in, I get aces, he gets kings, and it comes, all the money goes in the middle, comes ace, queen, jack, king 10, and we chop it. And the reason they let you chop that first pot, and the reason that hand setup happens, is to remind you that these things happen in poker. Because I remember speaking about this in detail with one of the guys that used to be involved in running shady games like this. So they give you that false sense of security almost, that oh, it's poker. Yeah, aces against kings, and we end up chopping it. It comes ace, queen, jack, king, 10. And about 2 hours later, I'm down like 3K. Queen, deuce, deuce flop. I've got pocket queens, all in. And I'm like, oh, hang on, I've got queens in this spot. What the fuck do these other two guys have that they're, betting so aggressively? And I remember going downstairs and bumping into my old hairdresser. And the moment she saw me coming down the stairs from the private floor from the restaurant where she knew that the game was run, her face just went so pale. Like, it was like seeing a ghost. She just like immediately, she's like, Henry, what are you doing up there? So, oh, we're playing poker. And obviously, I'm down like 3K at this point. So I'm not exactly in like a super hyped mood. And she was like, why don't you just go home? And I was like, oh, well, we're playing poker. And she's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing fine. There's 4 of us up there, we're playing poker or whatever. And it turns out that she was dating the guy that was the mechanic, the guy that was organizing the game, but she obviously couldn't tell me this. And, a couple of hours later, I'm on the phone to my mum, can you send me a taxi? I don't have any money for a taxi. Can you pay for a taxi and send it to me and come and pick me up? And then a week goes by or whatever, and I go back to the 2 cent, 5 cent game with my friends. And my friend told me, he's like, I told you not to go. I was like, yeah, but you didn't tell me that it's a rigged game. He's like, well, I can't tell you that, because if word gets out that I've told you that, I'll get my legs broken. I'll get I'll just get beaten up or whatever. And I remember at the time being insanely angry with him. But now that I understand how those things work and who they were as well, like they were like heavily involved with the mob in Bulgaria. I understand why he couldn't tell me, and the same reason why my hairdresser couldn't tell me, even though, she was very fond of me, but it was her boyfriend that was the one rigging the game. And so that was that. And then I remember about 3 years ago, so this is like 6-7 years after losing my first bankroll to these mechanics, and I was in Bulgaria visiting friends for the summer. I went to a legit casino in Sofia, and obviously people always find me interesting there because I speak the language fluently, and I'm obviously not Bulgarian. So I get talking, and a couple of people ask me, like, where did I learn the language from, and what town I grew up in. And I said the name. I was like, Pavlikeni. Like, oh, do you know so-and-so? Like the guy that had rigged the game, like 2 of the people involved in rigging the game. I was like, yeah. I was like, what makes you say that? I was like, I haven't heard that name in like a long time. He's like, yeah, he's been exiled from the country. And I was like, what do you mean he's been exiled by who? What, the government? They're like, no, like Johnny Boy over there playing in the high stakes area. They stung him for 150K. I was like, whoa. They're like, yeah, like a rigged game, like the mechanics. I was like, wow. I didn't want to like confirm that I knew that they were mechanics. I was like, oh yeah, I thought I heard stuff like that before. And they're like, yeah, and no one fucks with Johnny Boy. So, he apparently, just got chased out the country by, they stung the wrong people, basically. Although that they were involved with the mob, they've obviously then stung someone that was better connected within the Bulgaria mafia or whatever it was. And can't even return back to the country now. So pretty insane to look back at. Firstly, the alarm bells that were ringing. I had a couple of people trying to warn me, but they couldn't warn me directly for obvious reasons. And then to find out later just how heavily involved they were with some dangerous people. Had I handled losing the money differently, once I found out that the game was rigged, had I gone around spreading rumors, chatting shit, had I approached them to like try and demand my money back, could have got in a lot of trouble. So maybe losing the 5K isn't the worst thing that like could have happened. It could have been a lot worse.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But man, I mean, Yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow. Calling my mum and like, yo, can you send me €5 for a taxi? What's happened? I'm like, yeah, well, I just lost all of my money, kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy that you lost all of the money. I mean, like not even a taxi fare is left. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it got to the point where I was, and I don't throw the word 100% around a lot. I was 100% certain that the game was rigged towards the end of the game. But I was so adamant that I would be able to notice a setup when it was happening that I could just outplay them in other hands that weren't rigged. That is how...
Talk about fooling yourself, right?
Right? Like, looking back, and this is where it comes down to personal growth again, and why I'm really proud with my personal growth over the last few years, but looking back to then, just the ego and just wanting to prove to everyone that I was like the best and something that I wasn't. And I remember this is a true hand history, right? From this game. We're now playing four-handed after being three-handed for a while. And I'd already said to them that I didn't want one of the guys dealing. So this is like I'm already down like 3K or whatever it is. And I'm getting to the point where I'm getting close to 100% sure that this game is rigged. And I've already demanded that one of the guys doesn't do it. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. Like, not knowing that they're all fucking mechanics, basically. And it's a limped pot. I'm in the big blind. I look down at pocket sevens and I check. And it comes 7-3-3. So there's only like €8 in the middle, whatever. Small blind checks. I check. Now almost 100% sure this game is rigged. And all of a sudden it just goes there. Re-raise. All in. I'm in the big blind of sevens. It's 7-3-3 on the board, and I just fold. Just fold pocket sevens, and it goes all in, all in. And this is where I kind of like gave it away because like, they've shown down their hands, and one of them's got jacks, and the other one's got kings on the button. I'm like, hang on a minute, right? This is somehow a limped pot, and you've got jacks, he's got kings, and it comes jack on the turn, king on the river. And like they go crazy, like, Henry, oh my God, do you see that hand? Like, wow, that's so sick. Like, he's trapping with jacks and I'm trapping with kings, and it goes all in. And, he hits a jack on the turn and I hit a king on the river. I was like, yeah, I folded pocket sevens out of the big blind. And they're like, that you had a full house on the, like, they were trying to play dumb, like realizing that I'd kind of like caught on a little bit. They're like, well, why would you fold sevens? Like, oh, well, it's a good job we did anyway, because look at that run out. That's so sick. And that was when the 100% confirmation kicked in. And that was the first big fold that I had made in terms of setups. I was like, okay, we can now visibly see clear setups. So what we're going to do is we're just going to deviate from, our strategy and just outplay them with shitty hands, basically. And obviously that didn't work out for me, and ended up losing.
And any game where you have to fold the top full house on the flop is probably not the game you're going to be able to win. It's crazy. It's crazy. And yet, and I mean it, I've heard a similar story from many people. You are 100% sure this is rigged, and you keep playing, right?
Yeah.
It happens over and over again. Like, when you found out that there were mechanics involved, what did you do about it? Like, how did it influence? Because you're obviously playing live all the time. So did that have any effect on? And it's sort of a leading question. So actually, let me tell you my experience, right? Because I was basically looking to find out if you felt the same way that I did. Because I also got burned in the mechanics, and similar, exactly the same type of thing. First thing, you get a chop board. Where again, I probably was aces against something, and then okay, it's a chop, and you're feeling this. Oh shit, well, at least I got lucky, and it could have been worse because it was the other way around for me. Like the money went all in on the. I think the money went all in pre-flop, and then it's a king on the flop, an ace on the river. So you actually feel lucky to chop, right? It was like, oh, aces against kings, well, and you're lucky to chop. But then obviously the shit started happening. and it was a full ring game, private game, and there was a dealer, a licensed dealer on a rotation. There was a rotation of dealers, licensed dealers who were actually dealers in a local casino, and they could lose their license if they're dealing these games, right? So they're actually taking a risk. Anyway, so yeah, one of the dealers was a mechanic. I found out only later. Well, I found out mid-game, and I did leave the game.
You did or you didn't? Sorry.
I did leave the game because first I figured, okay, this is setup, and then I started paying attention. I made a big fold. I saw the run out, because the thing is, you see, in that game it was full ring, so there was only like a couple people collaborating with the dealer, right? So we did see the showdowns, so I could see some confirmations of, okay, that was a setup, because otherwise I'm pretty sure that if I fold, then if it was up to the people involved, they would also just fold, don't see the showdown, not to reveal anything, right?
Yeah.
But so I quit the game, never went back. But what I did is I read all of the books I could get my hands on, watched all of the videos about card mechanics, and I went into like this crazy thing of like I studied card mechanics for like,
wow,
I want to say 3 months. I was with a deck of cards in my hands for like 3 months, eating my dinner, doing the things. And eventually it came to a point, so I spent like 3 months doing that. And a couple of friends of mine who were also dealers in a local casino, and they've been dealers for like 12 years or something, right? They came over for dinner, and we were having dinner. At one point I'm saying like, hey guys, let's play a game. I want to show you something, right? And I don't remember how I set it up, but it was like, I'm just gonna show you something, like just gonna deal you a hold'em hand, etc., etc. And I deal a complete setup, just like, tell me how many players in the game. Tell me where you sit. Tell me where you sit. Tell me where I sit. So tell me everything. So I deal it once. Obviously the runouts of the board was rigged. The cards, the whole cards for the players were rigged. They didn't notice anything. So after that hand, I obviously say, okay, so you realize what happened. I basically set it all up. So let's do it again. Like, you watch me now, right? So shuffle, 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 cut, cut, cut. Deal, deal, deal. Tell me first, like, deal. How many people at the table? Like 6. Okay, well, let's deal 6. Where are you sitting? Etc. Etc. I deal it out. It's all good. Did you see anything? No. Let's do it again. Right. So these guys worked for 12 years, and to me it was, obviously slightly obsessive, right? Because like I went full retard on this, and completely, just like,
you went full worm from rounders on it. You're like, right,
yeah. Because I got like, okay, well, I need to figure this out. Like, what is going on? Like, I need to do it so that I can spot it, right? So to protect myself. And then when I saw these two guys with 12 years of experience not see a single move after 3 times, when I specifically twice they were watching closely, I told them, watch it, and I'm doing everything casino rules, the shuffles, the cuts, etc. So I figured, you know what, if I, just slightly obsessive, after 3 months could have fooled them, I have no chance ever to see a good mechanic do his thing in a real game. When, especially most of the private games, you, at some point of the day, you're probably having a drink, you're having a conversation. There's always a conversation. You're not watching the dealer all of the time. No. Even if you would be watching, you would still not spot it. And to me, it was like, oh, fuck. Is that the way it's going to be? Because I'm never going to be able to tell.
It's scary to think about. It really is. And there have been situations, I don't want to name the names of the casinos, but when I was still living in Eastern Europe, of actual dealers and floor staff in a licensed casino being involved in shit like this. There was one in Glasgow as well. Slightly different. There was a barcode on the cards, and the guy had like headphones in, pretending to listen to music, and he just basically knew whenever he was going to win the hand, he knew that he was going to win the hand.
Yeah.
But it's scary to think about as a live reg when someone is approached, let's say someone who doesn't make that much money or is struggling for whatever reason, has like family they got to feed, their other half hasn't like worked in a few months because they've lost their job, and a floor manager comes to you and says, yo, do you want to make some real money on the side, kind of thing? You know, you're a dealer, we'll give you like a 20% cut. You know, where are the moral ground police? They're not there. There's no one there, you know, the devil and the angel on the shoulder to tell these people don't do it, because firstly, they're never going to get caught, or most of the time they don't get caught. Obviously, there are cases. But if you think about the cases that you hear about, those are the ones that you hear about. I mean, like, I don't even want to try and begin to guess for every one case that we hear about where people are actually caught doing it, how many other cases go unnoticed. And it is scary to think about as a live reg that, you know, dealers that you're supposed to trust, floor staff that you're supposed to trust, are normally the ones that are involved in these types of scams, especially in licensed casinos. Obviously, private games, you know, everyone should know the risks of going to private games. Just, it comes with the territory. You know, you can't be naive to the fact that you're going to get stung in certain private games. And I don't want to scare people from going to private games, but just keep your wits about. If you see anything shady, you know, if you play for 4 hours and for some reason quads over quads happens like 5 times, like, just keep an eye on things, you know. But I'm not too scared about private games being rigged, because I think that I would now notice it a lot quicker. What I am scared about is the fact that I let my guard down in casinos because I trust casinos, as stupid as it sounds. But, you know, I would think, no, you know, they've got a reputation. And we spoke about this off stream before we went live about, you know, integrity and people's reputations. Like, no, they would never rig a game for the sake of making, you know, like 10K, 20K or 100K, depending on the stakes that you're playing, because it would just, you know, ruin the casino's reputation. But it does happen, and it's scary, man.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, we only touched upon card mechanics and all the technology. You've mentioned the barcode thing, you know, there's so much technology nowadays. It's fucking scary. And like you said, like in a licensed establishment, the only way any cheating happens is if the floor manager and the dealer, or at least the dealer, is in on it. But usually both have to be in on it, because obviously licensed casinos have procedures. You know, you can't just bring in your own deck of cards to deal with, like, you know, oh, I come here with my favorite deck of cards. This is my signature deck, right? That's never going to happen. But so for a deck with barcode to show up there, I mean, there's, you know, it's not up to the dealer to bring it to the table. So
exactly,
it's scary. But, you know, I also don't want to discourage people, because I do play a lot of live games, and like yourself, I'm like, okay, I know the risks. At the same time, I know that I am not going to be able to catch any bullshit going on, especially like if people are smart about it. It comes with the territory. It's unfortunate the way it is, but yeah, it's the risk that we should all be aware of. You know, and greed is a horrible thing, which, you know, in poker, money is involved, and there's always going to be a minority, and luckily it's a minority of people who have, you know, low ethics, and just greed gets the better of them, and they make bad decisions, unethical decisions. And I don't know if we should talk about the recent scandal that was in a, you know, in the high stakes community, because like I feel if we segue from this discussion into that discussion, it's slightly, you know, it can be misunderstood that we are sort of saying it's the same thing. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to, like, I don't want to try and put fear, you know, into people. I just want people to be aware that, you know, yes, our industry is an amazing industry. We have a wonderful community. As you said, the majority of people have ethics and are lovely people. Sure, at the poker table, they will do everything they can to beat you with their edge or their skill set. But I think it should be noted that these things do happen. And if you are going to play poker, that you should be aware that it could potentially happen. And to, just like a fair warning to keep an eye out. Like you said, it's going to be impossible to spot a decent mechanic. It really is. But just to know that these things do happen and keep your guard up if you can, especially in private games. In casinos, look, the chance that it's happening in the casino is minuscule. And for the 1-2 and the 2-5 and the 5-10 grinders and even the 10-25 grinders, probably not a chance that it's happening in your games because there's just not enough money to be made unless you're playing in some ridiculously deep stacked 5-10 game. I'm talking about the more bigger games, the 25-50, 50-100, the 100-200 games where there is, 7 figures on the table sometimes. That is places in casinos where a floor manager whose yearly salary in Europe is maybe 35, 40K is approached by a player and the player says, listen, mate, how about we quadruple your fucking yearly salary kind of thing. There are going to be people, and I'm not trying to justify what they do. Money changes people that aren't going to be able to resist that kind of offer. And they're going to fold to the opportunity to potentially make, life-changing money for them.
Yeah. And speaking of card mechanics, just to put a stopper on the whole discussion, if you're interested, and I'm going to put in links in the show notes, Richard Turner is just an amazing guy and definitely worth checking out. There's a lot of documentaries about him. Like, to give you a short, have you ever heard about him?
I haven't, no.
All right. So this guy is incredible. I want to say he's 70 right now or close to it. He had a disease when he was young, so he lost his sight and he's legally blind. While being blind, he got a black belt in karate.
Wow.
Right. So that kind of guy, and like the people he hang out with, the achievements he did in life is just awe-inspiring. This guy is incredible. He's a legend. And his thing is card mechanics as magic, sort of, right? So it's his magic. He performs in front of a lot of people. He created a lot of new ideas in the card mechanic world. Things that he can do, pretty much it's safe to say nobody else can do. Like, some of the things that he can do, nobody else could do, even if you would tell them exactly how it's done, because this guy just basically lives with the deck of cards in his hand. And there's a lot of documentaries about him. It's just insane. It's beautiful, it's interesting, and it's an amazing story. So, check it out yourself, and I'm going to put it in the show notes. Like, I think everybody who's going to watch some of that stuff are going to be completely amazed. Like, first of all, how incredible is what he can do. And second, his life stories are also incredible. Because he talked in one of the interviews, and I don't remember which one, but he talked about, he got approached by basically the mob, right? Not directly, but a guy who was connected to deal a game.
Yeah.
And he had the wits to say no. Because the reality is, for a guy like him, because we talked about, some of the dealers crossing the line and some of the floor managers, the reality is, if, let's say, you get involved in crossing the ethical line in a very high stakes game, and you are a card mechanic, you're just going to be basically, I don't remember what's the term. The term is probably, I think it's being fully used or whatever. Okay. What it basically means that you are used in the game until you're no longer required, and then you no longer exist. I mean, car accident, whatever, you drowned, things happen, right? Which is the unfortunate reality, and it's crazy. And he talks about some of those stories as well, and
Oh shit! So what you're saying is is that these mechanics are...
They don't have a high life expectancy if they cross the line. That's what I'm saying.
They don't have a high life expectancy because they get caught, or they don't have a high life expectancy?
No, because they get used. You know, if the mob organizes the game, right? Well, I'm obviously not talking about your local 1-2 game, right? I'm talking about a big game. You know, if you're gonna get, like, do you really want this guy to walk around and ever tell anyone about it? Like, if there's millions of dollars changing hands, you know, and there's some important people involved, like, do you want that? How difficult is it to get rid of them, right? And it's something to think about, you know, because it's not often talked about. And in fact, I'm not really happy that I started talking about all these things, because, you know, but at the same time, I think people need to know that it's, you know, it's part of what happens when you cross the line. You know, what happens if you actually go the route that you're not supposed to, if you behave not ethically. It's not only about, are you going to get caught? It's about who else is involved, right? Because, you know, if you're involved with the shady people, it's them you have to worry about. It's not your average Joe that you rob the money from. You know, what is he going to do? Your so-called business partners, these are the guys, you know, that are the risk in the game.
That's some scary shit. I never knew that. Never knew that.
That's just the reality.
I feel like we started off the podcast talking about really productive things, and now we're just...
Absolutely. We just went really dark. Like, that's just got, like, creepy, you know, like, anyway, let's...
Edit that part out. It's fine. We'll get rid of that.
I don't know. We'll see about that. We can leave some of it, but let's go to some happier grounds and
please
cover something. It is scary. Let's talk about commentary, right? And poker is entertainment as such, because right now, you know, I feel like we need a bit of entertainment after going into the dark aspects of the whole thing, you know?
Yes.
Which, again, I have to stress, it's like, it happens rarely in very small cases, etc., but it does happen. And it happens not only in poker, I mean, any industry. You know, you think about, you know, people playing shady deals with the stock market, people, you know, ripping off their companies, etc. I mean, just, you know, it happens everywhere. It's not about poker, it's about people, and people being who they are.
Football matches, boxing, people going down in a certain round in a UFC fight. It happens in every quote unquote sport game.
Yeah, even if you think about, like, all the bookkeeping scandals, you know, the famous Enron and stuff. I mean, greed is a thing, and it's a horrible thing, and it brings a lot of people down. So, well, anyway, but poker as entertainment, right? And you obviously, doing the commentary, are on the production side of the entertainment.
Yes.
What's your view of how things are changing, first of all?
Well, we don't have as many personalities, in my opinion, like we did back in the high stakes poker game days, like the Poker After Dark, you know, like the stacks of cash, you know, Darren Negreanu, Phil Ivey, Tom Dwan, you know, there was, you know, Doyle Brunson, some true legends of the game, like batting out. We had profiles on all of them, you know, like we knew all about them and their histories. And now I think it's transitioned from idolizing a select few players to giving everyone a platform. So what I mean by that is, since those days of the Poker After Dark, you know, I don't think Facebook was a thing, Instagram was a thing, Twitter was a thing. It kind of hadn't been introduced to the world yet. So we didn't hear about all of these young guys, unless you were, like, actively involved in, like, 2+2 threads or whatever, or other forums, about these guys that were, you know, getting it quietly online. They were crushing the games, but they were relatively still unknown. Now we've got platforms for everyone. You know, we're streaming 1-2 cash games, we're streaming 100 environments. We have charity events that, we're bringing in celebrities to play with recreational players. We have festivals that are specifically designed to be, like a fun environment and almost not necessarily take away the competitive side of poker, but, there's small buy-ins, and everyone goes to like these meetup games to like have like drinks with people and just play like casual poker. So I think that's where we're headed into the future. I think we've been on that transition now for quite some time, but I think what a lot of poker companies have realized, and again, I'm not really in a place of authority to say this is necessarily what's happening, but I think there is more incentive to these companies that are running events and tournaments is to give more airtime to the recreationals, and to the people that play poker as a hobby. And I'm fully on board for that, by the way. I think it is great for us, especially as professionals, rather than, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, but rather than have, these like high profile events where, it's just like Chidwick staring down Alex Foxen, which, by the way, I love to see that shit. I'm a big fan of like intense high stakes tournaments like that. But I think the major focus now is entertainment rather than, in-depth poker analysis and skill being shown and displayed. It's more of, let's just give everyone a platform. Let's make sure everyone sees, how much fun everyone's having at our festival, so that at the next event, more people are going to want to come and, flick in the 500 euros or the 1,000 euros. Their dream of winning, 200K and a trophy, and, they get to do the interview afterwards. I think that's where we're slowly transitioning. Companies seem to be focusing more and more on, looking after the player, like all the players though. Whereas before, I think it was more focused on the elite, and it doesn't seem to be as much in 2020.
And I want to, what do you think about this? Because I don't feel that there was a huge transition in terms of the purpose of the entertainment, right? And with all the shows currently and before, the idea is to show the fun aspect, show the, entertain people, basically. Because if we think back at the shows of Poker After Dark, if we think back at the shows like High Stakes Poker, these guys were entertaining first and foremost, right? The huge personalities, etc., etc. If we had personalities like this right now, maybe these shows would continue, but we probably don't, because the whole composition of the high stakes environment changed. Because first of all, I mean, happy-go-lucky, is no longer good enough for playing in those games. You actually have to work a lot. So it's a different type of people who achieve something on a high level nowadays in these games. Second aspect is the games are just way tougher. So you actually can't just be all smiles and hugs all the time. You actually have to concentrate and think and take your time. And finally, it's non-negligible thing. There's so many people from Europe. There's so many people from all over the world. Whereas before, you could just concentrate on, the huge personalities from the States.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, were all awesome. It's great TV. It was great entertainment. But nowadays, imagine you put in a bunch of German guys, Spanish guys, whatever, some Eastern European guys, a couple Americans, and keep the camera rolling. Well, language barrier is a thing. I mean, never mind that, some of those people don't have the personality, which is going to be like, okay, let's have some fun and let's, make jokes, etc. I mean, just on the fact that, well, it's easy to make jokes in your own language. Well, try to put 5 different nationalities with second or third language for each of them, and let's have some fun. That's just not gonna be. It's not gonna happen. So, that's maybe the reason why those shows don't really exist anymore, I think, because I would watch that, if we have a rerun of a new season of High Stakes Poker with some of the personalities, it would be great. It would be fun.
It would be amazing. I think the language barrier thing is certainly one of them. And it's also down to the fact, as you said, with poker getting tougher, a lot of people don't want to play on TV as much and like they used to, because they don't want to give anything away. It's the same with streaming. We just had the Galfond challenge with cards down. We're never going to see those hand histories because, Freak and Veni and Phil, for obvious reasons, although they were entertaining us and, we did get to see showdowns, we got to see insanely huge pots, then people don't want to give anything away. And because they want to protect their edge for something that they've built up and they've put hours and hours and hours of work into their game to get to where they are. And I think that's why we don't see these big games run as often as we did before, with the Poker After Dark, because there are people out there that want to organize events like this. I tried getting a Live at the Bike versus King's Resort crossover on a few occasions, because it was, we had the big game with Leon and the Wolf, and then obviously you had Garrett and some of the other crushers from Live at the Bike streaming week in, week out with whole cards being shown. But other than them two streams, I think a lot of the top pros that are playing in these big games just wouldn't even be interested, because firstly, they've got softer games that they can play in against people who might not be seen as points of interest for a TV show, so recreationals or like businessmen. So offering a lineup of all these big names to people nowadays, so, hey, yeah, Fedor, all of these guys, how about you come and play against each other? Let's play some 500 1K on stream. Why? Like, where's their edge in that? Or what did they get out of that? Are the company free rolling them the 100K to buy in with? No, of course they're not. The production company can't afford to free rolls, 7 guys into a game to battle against each other just for the sake of a TV show. And these guys aren't going to want to sit down against people that are as good as them and expose their strategies to the entire world for people to be able to review later on as well.
Oh, that's a great point. And you know what? I actually am ashamed to admit that I haven't thought about it. And even because I am streaming myself, and I, of course, encounter like some of my friends basically outright said to me, like, what the hell do you think you're doing? Right? Because, I am playing, let's say, up to 10K online, and I'd be streaming like literally in these last 10 days, I streamed for like 12 hours or something, just playing cards up, as you said, like everybody can review, everybody can see. Sure, I'm not playing my A game. I'm not trying to, I'm not, et cetera, but still a lot of things are being revealed. And so exactly, like, what's the point, right? I do it because it's fun for me to do. Is it a smart business decision? Obviously not, right? But like you said, like, why would anybody? Yeah, exactly. Like, why would they want to do it? What's the upside? And the downside is clearly huge.
Yeah, and we're seeing this with satellites now into tournaments, into some of the more prestigious events that we do still televise. Like WPT, some of the big Party Poker Millions events. The way that it is promoted on social media, and like you have all of like these pros coming on, like, come and join me in Rio de Janeiro for this 10K, 5 mil guaranteed, whatever. You can now qualify from like 25 cents. You can go through the steps. And I know that you have been able to do that obviously for a long time, even with WSOP main event back in the day. But that now seems to be the big thing, is talking to people. Actually, no, I want to go back on that, because that's obviously been around for a long time. But it seems to be more focused on, let's provide onto the TV table. Let's build a story around that. Let's have these €200 buy-in, 200k guarantee tournaments, where 90% of the field are just there for the sheer thrill of, potentially winning 60, 70k from a €200 buy-in, because that's good TV. Like seeing a guy whose Hendon mob only has $1,500 worth of live cashes in his lifetime, final tabling a WPT or a Party Poker Millions, or winning like a €200 Party Poker live event for 70k. That gets people talking. It gets people thinking, wow, like that could be me. I play, 5 cent, 10 cent online. I'm going to go to that next event. I'm going to book a hotel and go and play this €200 or this €500 or €1k event. And it's just great marketing from these companies that are doing it, because it makes sense. The pros are already there. The pros are already aware of what games they want to go to, and their tournament selection and their game selection. But it is about bringing new people into the game. And I don't think that we will get many more big games like Poker After Dark anymore. I think it's more leaning towards giving, these hobbyists time on TV and giving them their moment to shine. And I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. And like you said, that aspect of people can actually relate to them.
Yeah,
this is a great thing.
Exactly.
Because sure, it's more entertaining to watch something when you can say to yourself, oh, it could be me.
Exactly. And I think that's a great point that you make, because it's something I missed out on, is as thrilling as it is to watch Poker After Dark and, the Galfond challenge, and you see 100k swings, sometimes $1 million swings in some of the big, like Triton games, for example. People watch that and, they see the big pots. That's cool. But that's as far as the entertainment goes for them. It's just seeing the big hands and seeing some of the best players in the world battle against each other. But there aren't many people that can sit there watching that and be like, oh, that could be me. I'm going to give Triton a call and get a seat in that game for the next stream. No, you just don't have 500k in your back pocket to go and play against Tom Dwan. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a huge fan for these events that seem to be popping up around here. I know Andrew Nemi and Brad Owen have done a great job of utilizing their YouTube platforms to build a community and like have these low buy-in meetup games, like micro stakes, live cash, and these small tournaments, and they've been a huge success. They've been a huge success for obvious reasons, because people enjoy playing poker as a hobby. They want to sit down with these personalities, like Brad and Andrew, and they want, with the party poker stuff and the WPT stuff that they're doing more and more recently. Obviously, you still have like the 5 Diamonds, you have the more prestigious WPT events, but you also have these smaller ones, like some of the insane prize pools that are connected with Party Poker Live, where you just can qualify for a few cents on your Party Poker account. And yeah, it could potentially be you, winning hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think that's the dream that these companies have to sell. And I think it's more difficult to sell the dream that, oh, hey, you could come and battle against Phil Ivey, Nick Schulman, Tom Dwan, Jason Kuhn. No, you can't. Like, maybe you can in 10 years' time if you sit down and grind and, actually approach poker and study the game and, play for a living. But it's easier to sell the dream to new people that maybe haven't played poker before or have only recently got into it, that, hey, this guy up until 5 minutes ago only had $1,500 total live earnings. He's now got 6 figures, and he qualified into this €500 event for €2. It's easier to sell.
Absolutely. And plus it's actually true. It could be you, right? It totally could. Because like you said, some of these people in those tournaments, they also don't have all that much experience. They, they're not real pros, and no. It could be you. That being said, I mean, those still, these huge events also are good, but they're for a way smaller audience, which kind of sell an idea of, oh, that's what it could be. If I take it seriously, if I go all in on, okay, this is my life now. I'm going to study, I'm going to improve, etc. It sells the dream, but still, could it be you? Maybe, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot of things that have to happen in between, etc., etc. So it's a different kind of dream, and it's a very small group of people who are actually interested in that dream.
Yeah, it's the end boss. It's the end level. Alex Foxen staring you down at the 10K WPT 5 diamonds.
Yeah. And we've talked about rounders, or rather, you talked about rounders. How it was an inspiration for you, right? So this is the sort of Johnny Chan against Seidel, right? Type of thing. Looking up to this and then saying, oh, I'm gonna go to the main event and it's going to be me, except it's on a completely different scale, because main event with a 10K buy-in is still attainable for a lot of people, whereas go sit down for the one drop or something, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon for most of the people.
This is the thing that you mentioned in terms of like the dream and entertainment is something that I tried to transition into my actual commentary as well. And I've received a lot of, positive comments about my commentary. I'm, getting more and more events, covering like the Galfond Challenge, one of the biggest events of, the last like 10 years, in my opinion. To kind of get that gig is huge for me. And I'm obviously doing something right, but a lot of the criticism that I get about my commentary, and I know other commentators that have received similar criticism, is how technical we go into things in the commentary booth, how much detail we want to break down a hand with. And I have always tried to not go into any detail, not any detail whatsoever. I'll break down a hand every now and then and just give my opinion on things. But when you look at the people who are watching poker for entertainment purposes, and you sit down and ask them what their preferences would be, and you've just got some GTO wizard like say, okay, well, solver bets 1/3 on this flop, and we should be 2xing this turn because it just hits our range more than I honestly don't think there are that many people that want that. And a lot of the criticism that I have got have been from pros that like, oh, you're boring, like you're not breaking down hands or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then the flip side to it, which is just like, I still find it insane, is that there have been streams for some of the more prestigious events that I've covered, like, WSOP main, 100K high roller, 25K high rollers, where I've called in, like Som Timer into the booth, Jack Sinclair into the booth, and we've just gone ham with the analysis. Like, we've just like looked at a hand like David Peters against Adrian Mateus or whatever, and we're like, okay, right, well, Solver does this, cool. And then I'll get texts afterwards like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? Why are you giving away free information? I'm like, what do you mean, why am I giving away free information? Like, you just can't win with everyone. And you can either let it eat you up, as a commentator, and be like, okay, well, it just looks like I can't please anyone. I try and have fun with the chat, just like mess around, trolling, and, not focus too much on the action, only jump into it when there's a big hand going on. Or you do the opposite and you ignore the chat and you break down hands and try and be as technical as possible. And then you've got other pros texting you like, Henry, shut the fuck up. Like, you're being too technical. You're making too much sense. You're giving away too much information. You're teaching people how to get good at poker. And I've got screenshots on my phone. I'm not going to call anyone out, but of people telling me to not do it. So I'm at a point now where I'm like, I don't know what to do. And thankfully, I was watching Nick Shulman the other day, covering the Super High Roller Bowl on Party Poker TV. And there were people complaining about Nick's commentary. And that just reminded me, I was like, look, if there are people complaining about Nick's commentary and Shulman is the GOAT, no questions asked, like the guy is just the best commentator in my opinion, I shouldn't really just like throw that statement out there, but in my opinion, he's the best. If there are still people that aren't happy with what he's doing, then I've got nothing to worry about, because there's obviously just going to be people that are always unhappy with certain commentator.
Yeah, that's so true. You can't please everyone. That's definitely the case.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was on the receiving end of that as well. Obviously, joined you in the commentary booth a couple of times. Joined Tuckman. Joined Brian Pellegrino. I'm missing some people. I've joined. I joined 2 other people, but anyway, like it's a long list of people that I joined, and it's different type of commentary with everyone. Because some people try to ask me more questions about the technical stuff, and some people try to steer away from that. And exactly like you said, we would have comments in the chat or later on, and you can't please everyone. Like sometimes it would be, oh, you guys not even talking about the hand. This is bullshit. Right. Then, oh, you're talking too much about the hand. And I would get, although I stopped getting these messages, but in the beginning I would get a lot of people, even some of the high stakes people, reach out to me and say, listen, what are you doing? Like, sharing the free information, etc., etc. And I don't know what's your opinion on that, but like information is abundant. Lack of information is not what's stopping people from becoming great at poker. Just because I share even more information doesn't mean that, all of a sudden, I would be like the best teacher in the world if from like, 40 hours of commentary or whatever, I could like all of a sudden there's an army of complete crushers. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I mean, you can put all of the information out there. People are lazy. There's so many aspects to poker. It's not only about making good decisions. There's so many things. That's why I keep talking about these things on the podcast, because I want to help people. Let's put it this way. I've seen some of my friends waste years of their life doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. If only they had better judgment at some point. If only they knew some of the aspects of mental game, how important are some of those things? How important is bankroll management? How important is game selection, etc., etc. All the soft aspects of poker, creating a balance in your life. Because let's face it, like even if you're the most successful poker player in the history of poker, if you're miserable in your day-to-day, what's the point?
Yeah,
right?
I couldn't put it better myself, honestly. And I'm assuming you've been in both spots where I know for me that there have been points in my career, even up until recently, where I've had the most amount of money that I've ever had in my entire life, but I've been miserable. Or then, I've gone on a downswing and, lost half my bankroll, but I've been the happiest that I've ever had because of, looking after my mental health with friends and family and making sure that, the poker and life ratio is balanced. I'd be really interested, the viewers that do watch this, for them to maybe give their opinion on what they feel commentary should be. And I know there's no definitive answer. As you said, you can't please everyone, but it is something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that I do want to continue doing. Hopefully I keep getting the offers that I've been getting over the last, year and a half, 2 years for these events, because for me, the way that I've started treating commentary, and I know we were talking about it before, and before we went live, is I just really want it to be a place that people can come and hang out and just have fun and ask questions, troll me, talk about my voice or my face or whatever it is. Like I was saying, how thick-skinned I've got recently, and well, not even recently, just in general, I'm pretty thick-skinned, because you do get called every name under the sun, unfortunately, when you're doing commentary and you've got thousands and thousands of viewers. But my point is I just want people to come in and be like, oh, Henry and so-and-so are doing commentary. This is going to be fun. They're going to be, throwing jabs at each other, trolling each other. They're going to be interacting with the chat. We're going to jump into a few big hands every now and then. but it's not going to be one of them streams where, and again, I don't want to throw shade on anyone, but you get some people that, because they get offered a gig, because they get called into the commentary booth, they have this sense of authority where they will go into the commentary booth and they will break down hands from a technical point of view, and it's their word or the highway. It's like, listen, I got fucking invited into the commentary booth, therefore I'm the professional, I'm the one that knows it all. You guys should just like shut the fuck up and like just listen to what I'm saying. And I don't want that. And I don't think that's the way that commentary should be approached. I think people should be allowed to voice their opinions freely, like freedom of speech. If I break down a hand history and someone comes in obviously in a productive way, you're going to get idiots that are just like, Henry, what the fuck are you talking about? You're completely wrong. But if someone actually comes in with a counter argument and said, well, actually, Henry, what do you think about using this sizing on the turn? Or what do you think about that bluff catch on the river? I'm never going to shut someone down. I'm never going to be like, no, dude, fuck off. I'm the commentator. You're just watching. If anything, it's going to excite me even more that someone's like come to me with a new perspective. I'm like, wow, actually, yeah, I never even thought about that. That's really interesting. Like, what do we do in that spot with that versus that sizing? Or, do we really want to be using this hand as a bluff catcher in this river spot? Like, I love engaging with people because it's how I got to where I am now. Was, I was taught from a young age, you're born with two ears and one mouth, and it's to listen. And I've got to where I have in poker by getting rid of my ego. It took me a long time to do that, but getting rid of my ego and listening to other people's perspectives and my peers, because you can always learn something.
And even what you said about, the deep analysis and some people being categorical about it or otherwise, to be honest, like for a commentary, like if people watch it with the purpose of, okay, this is like a coaching session. Now this guy's going to be analyzing the hands. I'm taking notes, so he better like do his thing. Right? You're in the wrong place, right? The viewer is in the wrong place because the time and the place, right? So get out. Get a perspective.
Sign up to, bluff the spot or run it once a little, whatever.
Exactly. Right. Get a coach. Get something.
Yeah.
If, like, to me, the commentary thing, the watching something, it's supposed to be engaging. You're supposed to, as a viewer, you're supposed to be engaging in what's going on. The little banter, the little this, the little that, and also like. Before I did the commentary, and the ones that I did for Galfond Challenge are obviously pale in comparison to the real work that you guys are doing, right? Because we did like maximum 5 hours, and I'm like exhausted after 5 hours. After 3, my brain is shutting down. Like I've never talked so much and, without pause. This is crazy. And you guys go for like 8, 12 hours and it's crazy.
Yeah.
But to think, like when I experienced it for myself, and I'm not a big viewer of any, like to be honest, I never watch any events. I was a big fan of high stakes poker. I was a fan of poker after dark, but I'm not a fan of tournaments. I'm not going to watch that too much, right? But when I was in the booth myself and I'm doing the commentary, I realized, like, Jesus, 5 hours, even if you would try to analyze every hand really, really deep and like give great advice, etc., it's not possible. Like, who can do, just like a full-blown, really good analysis for 8, 12 hours or something like you guys do? And the problem with the viewers is they tune in for like 20 minutes and then they expect, well, I'm here only for 20 minutes. He better do his shit. This hand, I need to know, like, what is the sizing, etc., etc. And it's crazy. And that's one of the reasons why you will never be able to please everyone, because some people are actually there sticking around for all 12 hours. It's in the background somewhere. They're having their life, and there's a bit of commentary, and they sort of watch it bits and pieces, right? There's going to be some people in there in and out for like 15 minutes, and they expect, like, this is what I'm here for, and then it's not that. It's a hell of a job, man.
Those guys as well, like they come in, what's the update? How much is Phil up today? This, that, they're like, update, commentators, update. It's like, all right, dude, like you tuned in for 5 minutes. But listen, I love them guys as well. You know, I need them. They're there and they help promote the streams and the games. But I think one of the best people for commentary. Actually, just quickly, just talk about the Galfond challenge and the commentary that you did. It was cards down, dude. Like, that's fucking impossible. That is close to an impossible task to dissect, heads up PLO with cards. And if we could see one player's cards and then a board, holy shit, I will happily break down hand after hand after hand after hand for you. Because I can at least see 4 cards. I can be like, right, okay, well, with this hand, we got these blockers, but you know the drill. If you know 4 cards, it's cards down, guys. Like, give us a break. Like, these guys are at the top of their game to even attempt to, guess what Phil is block betting river with that is then all of a sudden getting check piled on after it's checked flop and turn, or stuff like that. Like, it's just spots that you have to spend a lot of time in the solver streets doing. But I just wanted to give a massive shout out to Jamie Kerstetter, because I think the reason she is one of the greatest commentators, especially the work that she does in America, is because she does exactly what you just said. She engaged with the chat, and people don't want to come to a stream and be made to feel like they're stupid. People don't want to come in and listen to commentators throwing out all these fancy words and, just overdoing it. It's just too much for people sometimes. And that is why Jamie is one of the best people for WSOP. She covers a lot of the World Series events, is because ESPN and WSOP understand that the majority of viewers that watch the shows are people that play poker as a hobby, and they tune in because they just have a lot of passion for the game, but not on a professional level. And Jamie does a great job at keeping those guys engaged by talking about certain things, but keeping it simple so that people aren't walking away from a stream and just be like, fuck, I feel like an idiot. What do they mean by frequency in that sport? I don't know what frequency means. If you're a 1-2 grinder, that plays poker once a week, just to enjoy yourself, they don't want to hear about frequencies and shit like that. I mean, come on, man. Surely people can understand that.
Yeah, and actually, now that you mentioned Jamie, it was I tuned in on the last day of the challenge against Action Freak. You guys were doing it together with Jamie, and it was engaging. I tuned in as in okay, I need an update. I need to see the score, and then I sort of stuck around for quite a while, because I was like, okay, this is fun, because you guys started, there was some banter, she was making fun of your English accent, and then, the chat kind of went that way. Then she's talking about her dog, all that stuff. And this is awesome, because even I really just went for an update. Okay, I need to see the score. It's pretty clear that Phil's going to win. So let's just double check, there's a couple hours left. So are things safe? And, and I stick around because, this is awesome. If I tuned in and it was okay, so the frequency is just, okay, you lost me there. You lost me. But then, again, it's just me. Obviously, people are different. The people going to seek out different commentary. But the beauty of it is there's a lot of commentary out there. You can go ahead and choose something else. So if you are doing the WSOP and you're doing it for the audience, which is the recreational players, well, then that's the audience that you work for. If you're a pro, well, you know what? Get together with your pro guys and friends and sit together and do the commentary yourself. Analyze the hands all day if you want to.
Do a Skype session, if you want to look at Monka spots or spots. But what I took away from that, Runchuks, is so you tuned in to get an update because you had money on Phil. Is that what you're saying?
No,
okay, there's a
no,
couple of hours
not
to
at
go.
all.
Cross-booked him against Action Freak.
Not at all. No, that was not the reason. But no, I was just rooting for Phil. In the first challenge, it was hard for me to root for anyone. I was being as neutral as I can because obviously I know Veni. I know him for quite a while, and Phil is an awesome guy. I like Phil a lot, right? So it was sort of like, damn it, I want. So to be honest, what happened was like a dream scenario of this roller coaster, the game that's gonna go down in history as one of the most interesting swings, publicly played. So it was all like as if it's scripted to perfection, and then in the end, it's just the little stone sort of tipped the whole scale in one direction. Just one board, where just kind of a setup of a board tipped the whole thing.
On the river.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Corner pocket.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that after so many hands, it comes down to that, and it was beautiful. It was so much fun to watch, and and also like the display from both players of how they handled it. Like the way they both handled it, that is beautiful, and we all have so much to learn from it, right? It's like
I don't know about you, but I feel like I've grown a bunch just since doing the commentary for the Galfond Challenge, mainly due to how Phil has publicly spoken about his mindset and just showing us how important it really is that yes, you can study, yes, you can use solvers, yes, you can put in volume, but a lot of people neglect their mental health when it comes to poker. And I'm sure you can relate. I'm sure people that are watching this can relate. There are so many times that I can recall where, due to an outside factor, maybe an argument with a friend or family or a breakup or something, I've then played poker and clearly not been playing my A game because of my mental health or where my mind's been at the time, but refusing to take a break and to step away and to get into a better mind frame. So I'm hoping that the main thing that people take away from the Galfond Challenge is, okay, not only through having an insane work ethic, you can get to these stakes one day and become one of the world's best. That's evident. We all know that. But something new, it's obviously not new to, professionals that have been around for a long time, but maybe something new that has been highlighted by this challenge from Phil is the importance of surrounding yourself by like-minded people and, having a solid support network around you that can help you with your mental game as well as your poker game. I think a lot of people neglect it. I think it is, for me, one of the most important things about my life. Money aside, poker aside, if I'm in a good place mentally, then that's a happy life. I couldn't give two shits whether I've got 1K in the bank account or 150K in the bank account, because I was, I'm mentally sound and my friends and family are mentally sound.
I want to add two things here, because the way how the challenge happened publicly, this huge swing, the huge 900,000 euros, so over $1 million in the red, come all the way back to zero in a span of, what was it? Was it like 25,000 hands, or I think it was 25,000.
Yeah. Right? 25K hands, yeah.
So in a span of that, you have a million swing one way and then the way back. So for people to see it publicly, for a lot of people, I hope it shows that, listen, these swings that wasn't even that extraordinary. It's an unlikely event, but it's not like, oh my God, how did this happen? Well, guess what? It happened many times before. Yeah. It happened to Veni before. It happened to Phil before. It's happened to anyone who's been around long enough. Right? So I think that is a good thing from that challenge, that to a lot of people it will illustrate, and hopefully with that, the bankroll management is sort of, the importance of it is once again stressed. And I hope, well, that's definitely a positive thing, because, well, it's probably going to help a few people along the way. And the second point I wanted to make, which, because as you said, like so many people would have the wrong mindset going into the game. Let's say you had, like you said, you had a breakup, you had some sort of event in your life. You're just angry, you just had an argument, etc., etc. And a lot of people actually just jump in the games. And the question is, why? Why do you do it? Why did you join the game? And it's so easy because, like, for a lot of people, and that's a huge leak in the mental game of just basically, you know what? My life sucks. For whatever reason, I'm angry at everyone. Let's play poker. What do you think is going to happen? Like, is it ever, like, whoever, like, when did it ever work out? Even if you're running good, you're going to be still pissed about it, because you're still not enjoying it. And then why are you doing it? And it's coming back to, like, okay, I can't take days off. I'm a professional. I'm supposed to play. Oh, you know what? You're supposed to put your mind straight first and then go ahead, play. But sure, you can't always just play only when you're super happy and fully fit and all that stuff. If that was the case, well, then you would play very rarely because, well, the reality is, if you're gonna try to grind almost every day, well, some days you just don't feel it, but you still have to do it. But some days you do have to take a break, step away. Don't use poker as a sort of mechanism to fix your life, because it won't fix your life.
It is so important what you just mentioned, and again, that is something that I try to bring to the table in commentary, is just like be completely vulnerable with the viewers, talk about all of my fuck ups. Look, I'm not claiming to, I'm very honest about the stakes that I grind. I'm honest that, if I have to drop down to 50 PLO or 100 PLO to rebuild my fundamentals, like I will do that because I've completely removed, no, not completely, because that's a lie, but I've removed a lot of ego from the game. And you just have to teach people these lessons. And I think that's a huge asset to a commentator if you can bring that and just be honest with the chat, because the people watching can then relate. They can then relate to, oh, wow, yeah, I remember that time that I played angry after having an argument with my boyfriend or girlfriend, and I ended up losing money. Wow, I didn't think that, because not everyone can connect not everyone can connect the dots all of the time. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of guidance. We're not all born, all knowing. Like I said earlier on, speaking to your network and getting a different perspective and opinion is massive because you're willing to learn. So like you mentioned, the swing, to see two goats like Phil and Veni go for a swing like that over such a short sample. I hope that a lot of people that are going through downswings at the moment, or even going on upswings, take away from that, right, wow, well, if two of the best PLO players in the world are going through swings like that, then, I'm ultimately going to have that at some point in my career. You get some sun runners, that seem to just go on like constant heaters, and then they retire at age 28 and we never hear from them again. But it's unlikely. And then the other one as well is, like you said, mental health, and just realizing that it's okay to take a day off. But I can empathize with people that beat themselves up for taking a day off, because I've been there and I've done that. And, it is tough to sometimes detach yourself when you're supposedly a professional poker player, which would mean that, you want to be putting in volume and earning money because that is your job. And the second that you relax or a friend invites you out for a drink, you feel guilty that you're not at the tables, or you're in bed watching a movie and you're like, should I be doing this? Yes, man. Just remove your mind from the game for a couple of days, for a week. And I didn't mention it earlier on, but when you first brought up the subject about taking a month off, and I mentioned earlier that the back end of last year and the beginning of this year was my most successful time frame to date so far in terms of money made, and also life EV in terms of travels. In August, I honestly in July of last year, I just collapsed mentally. I had been doing commentary nonstop at King's Resort, and we're talking 12, 15-hour streams, 5 days a week. I was mentally exhausted. I was also trying to put in volume live whilst I was at the casino, and I just broke down. I had an absolute mental block. Called up a couple of high school buddies from Bulgaria, booked an Airbnb, and didn't play a single hand of poker for about a month and a half, from like the beginning of July until almost the end of August of last year. And then I came back and I was raring to go. It was WSOP circuit at King's, WSOP Europe around the corner. And yeah, just came back fresh, clean mind, been chilling on the beach, hanging out with friends, just taking my mind off poker. And I don't know if it was a coincidence, that I took the break and then I just went on what, is an insane heater over 300 hours of live play. I don't think it's sustainable to be winning 72 big blinds every hour, but that's the rate that it happened at for whatever reason. Maybe the RNG gods were on my side for taking a break and stepping away. Yeah, it's important. Like you said, with any job, you need to chill out every now and then.
Yeah, and I do believe that the break definitely helped you with. I
was buzzing to go. The second I walked into that casino again and made my first deposit and withdrew chips, it was like, right, let's go fuck some shit up. Let's go play some poker. It's been a while. It's time to stack some people again.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I just want to, because we're basically wrapping up here. We've been at it for a while. People are going to be at the loss of what exactly is this show about, because we covered some wide-ranging topics, right?
Friends,
But I think, one thing that you sort of mentioned, and I just want to reiterate because that's something that I like about the work that you do, right? And which is that you share your personal stories. Like the story, for example, that game in New York, right? The first time I heard it, I was like, wow, I'm so happy that you bring it up on stream. People need to hear this, right? And some of the Shady game stories, all of those stories are important. People need to hear it. People can learn from it. That being said, like, I know how things are. For example, the New York game, right? Okay, for some people, it's going to be like, oh, right, well, don't do that. Yeah. For others, it's going to be, oh, awesome. Let's go and do that. Let's go and try that, right? This is what's poker going to be about. This is rounders, let's go for it. And it is what it is. Everybody's going to have their own takeaways, so to say, right? Because there was an interesting, I don't know if you read, there's a wonderful book called Liar's Poker by Michael Lewis. It has nothing to do with poker. It's not about poker. It's about investment banking. It's an old book. He wrote it in early 90s or something. Hilarious. Michael Lewis. And it's called Liar's Poker. It's a great book, one of my favorite books by this author, and the author in general is an amazing guy. I love his work. I love his style of writing. He's the author behind Moneyball, which the movie was made about. So it's that type of nonfiction, journalistic approach to investigating stories. He wrote great books about the financial crash, etc., etc. So an incredible author. Anyway, so I recently listened to an interview of him, and he mentioned that he wrote Liar's Poker as a cautionary tale against the greed in the banking industry and the investment banking specifically. So a cautionary tale to perhaps allow some people to make better decisions and not go that route. Don't go into the Wall Street. Don't do this, right? Well, what happened in reality was quite the opposite, because he started getting calls from young guys of like, oh, this is amazing. I love what you're saying. Like, how do I get in? Do you have any advice? Like, how do I go? Like, what should I say in the interviews? You don't know how people are gonna what are they going to take away from what you're saying?
Yeah.
With every story that you tell, there's going to be people who view it from one perspective, another perspective, depending on where they are in their life and what lens they're looking through. But still, I think the fact that you're sharing these stories while doing the commentary is what makes your commentary great. Because
Thanks,
again,
man.
people can relate, people can connect, and it's engaging. Because those hands, I mean, let's face it, even if you watch a hand which is the most beautiful hand of poker, whatever that means, there's no such thing. It's what is a beautiful hand of poker? Like, I mean, let's imagine there is a thing like this.
People,
let's imagine there is a thing like this. Are you really going to remember it like 3 years from now? Are you going to talk over dinner like, oh, remember that hand which they played, this guy played against that was a crazy hand? Well, maybe some people will have these moments, right? But a story of the New York underground game and the graffiti door and the 2 bouncers and a cage and how it looks like rounders, this is a story that's going to stick. And this is the story that people will remember when Henry Kilbane is in the booth. You have a personality there with like, oh, this is the guy who is lucky to be in the booth because let's face it, he was knocking on the wrong door in the wrong city to be knocking on that door. So, but that's great. Yeah. So I just wanted to point it out,
Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. I honestly do. It's something that I'm still new to. Like, even with the events that I've covered, I could have only dreamt about covering 100Ks with, the best of the best in the world at a table that I'm doing commentary on. But it's a work in progress. And I'm always open to constructive criticism and feedback from anyone, even Twitch chat. And I know that they don't believe me, but I honestly am, because I'm passionate about it. It motivates me to get better at poker. And if just one person tunes in and can walk away feeling like they've learned something, or they've realized because of stories that I've told, flaws in themselves or things that they need to fix at home in order to achieve, not necessarily their dreams, but things that they've been working towards, with the systems that we were talking about building earlier on, then I've done my job, and I know that I can't please everyone when it comes to commentary. Like I said, from pros and, some of the most elite players in the world, I've got half of them telling me to shut the fuck up whenever I start, breaking down hands because I'm giving away too much free information. And then, I've got half of them telling me that, Henry, why aren't you breaking down hands? They used to get to me. They used to eat me up a little bit, but now I'm just willing to listen to everyone, and I'm still working towards finding that balance. And hopefully one day I'll get there. I don't know if I ever will. I don't even think Nick Schulman has. Like I said, the other day I was watching some of his work, and there were people not happy with the way that he was commentating. I was like, well, I don't need to worry then, Runchuks, man. Like, if Nick Schulman can't please anyone, and then there's no hope. There's no hope for the rest of us, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Oh well, Henry, thank you for this conversation. I really enjoyed it, man. And funny enough, we also talked 1 hour off screen, basically off the record, which is crazy. We should have recorded some of that as well, but it was so much fun, man.
There are a few bits in that 1 hour that we can't make public.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a couple of things that I was just like, I'll never get hired again, basically. I'm joking, but man, Runchuks, listen, and to everyone watching your content, there's just so much to learn from people like you in the industry. And I don't know if you get told this and whether you care about getting told it, but you bring so much to the table in terms of value and wisdom, and it doesn't go unnoticed, mate. And I really appreciate you not only inviting me onto the podcast, but answering my stupid questions. There's a lot to be learned from people like you. So thank you for having me and everything that you do for the community, mate. Honestly, it's been a pleasure.
Oh man, thank you for the kind words, and keep up the good work, man.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
looking
I'll
forward
try.
to looking to watching some of your commentary again.
Be back soon. All
right. Well, bye.
Peace out, guys.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to get regular email from me where I share my key takeaways from each latest episode, go to runchukspodcast.com and subscribe to my newsletter. And of course, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel on YouTube and rate my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or any other platform where you normally listen to the podcasts. This really helps.